Hello everybody and welcome to your first JIC online class with JIC. Today we'll be handling IELTS speaking, so be ready for your first class, alright? So, the first thing that you have to learn with IELTS speaking is, of course, we have to learn two objectives for today. The first objective is to know what the IELTS speaking is, including of what parts we have, and second, to know the different criteria and how they will be checking your speaking scores, or how they will be evaluating you, alright? So, let's begin with the parts of the speaking test. In the IELTS test, we basically have three parts. Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Part 1 is basically also known as an introduction or an interview, which should go around 4 to 5 minutes. After that, we have Part 2, which is known as the long turn, which is about 3 to 4 minutes. And lastly, the two-way discussion, Part 3, which is again 4 to 5 minutes for a total of 11 to 14 minutes. Now, if we go a little bit on details on the different parts, we have to discuss the difference between Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Let's begin with Part 1. So again, Part 1 is an introduction, or more like an interview, where they will be asking common questions or simple questions or simply general questions about general knowledge, all right? So usually in the test, the first question that they'll ask you is, what is your full name? And after that goes, where are you from? Now, kids, ladies and gents, this is not really, how do I call it? They don't really evaluate these two questions. It's just for them to check if you are the right person at the right time for the test. So basically, after showing your name or telling you your name, they'll be asking you for your identification card. Most of the times we give our passports. So upon receiving the passports, they'll check your name and they'll also check where are you from. Afterwards, the main question will come, and most of the times the question could be either, are you working or are you studying, or can you describe your hometown? From this question is when the test would actually start, to the point that your examiner will now start evaluating your answers. So Part 1 questions can be about your work, your studies, your favorite color, or different types of topics such as food, these kind of general questions. Anyways, in the future classes, you will be discussing all of the different questions that could be given to you. So be ready. Now let's talk about Part 2. Part 2 is considered the long turn. Now, what does the long turn actually mean? It basically means that the examiner, the examinee will have to talk for about 1 to 2 minutes straight. But prior to that, they'll give you 1 minute to prepare. So how does it go? Now, if you look here onto my left, they will show you a cue card. Right? The cue card will have a base or topical question, which is usually the top. This is a very good example. If you look at the top part, you will actually see the topic. So what you have to do is you have to again answer the topic questions while being guided with the sub-questions for you to fill in your 1 to 2 minute mark. It is actually very suggested that you'll answer all of these questions. Now, with your 1 minute preparation, because they give you 1 minute preparation, you'll actually be getting a piece of paper, a scrap paper, and a pencil. The examiner will be giving you that, so don't worry to bring any pencils or paper. So with the 1 minute mark, you'll have to prepare for this question, so you can, brainstorm, take down notes, and then after 1 minute, that is when you will be starting to talk for, again, 1 to 2 minutes. It is highly recommended that you should be speaking for the whole 2 minutes. Again, in the future, we will be teaching you how you can be handling this and the different strategies for us to fill in the 2 minute mark. Finally, let's go to Part 3. Now, Part 3 is the two-way discussion. Why is it called a two-way discussion? Simply because the examiner would be asking you questions, more of a discussion type of questions, which is always related to your Part 2 topic, right? So it's more of a discussion type where you would have longer answers compared to your Part 1. Right? So you have to remember this. Again, we will be teaching you all of the ins and outs of how to teach, or rather, how to answer the speaking test. All right? So you got your Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Next, let's talk about the criteria in which the examiners will be using to evaluate your speaking test, all right? So the criteria is basically a guideline given to the examiner to check how good your speaking score should be. The lowest score is going to be a 1.0, while a perfect score is a 9.0. There are basically 4 criteria. The first criteria is fluency and coherence. Number 2 is lexical resource. Number 3 is grammatical range and accuracy. And number 4 is pronunciation. So what are these big words? Let's go look at fluency and coherence. Fluency coherence is basically the smoothness of how you actually talk, if you have any pauses, or if you actually stutter, or at the same time, coherence could actually be talking about the way that you understood and how you organize your thoughts, all right? If we go to lexical resource, what does lexical resource actually mean? Lexis, it basically means vocabularies. So you'll have to be careful with your vocabularies. You should know what vocabularies to use for certain different ideas. Next is grammatical range and accuracy. Everybody knows what grammar is, and of course it is logical that you should be speaking with the proper grammatical sentences, proper grammar or correct grammar. But most people forget about the range. Grammatical range simply means the ability to speak with basic sentences, complex sentences, and even compound sentences. And lastly, we have pronunciation. Pronunciation basically checks how clear you are in your sentences, how clear your vocabularies and sentences are, and basically if it's understandable. All of this will be definitely explained in your classes today, all right? If you have any questions, I do advise you to first check the part 1, 2, and 3, including the criteria for you to actually ask these questions in your classes, all right? No, rather, that will be your homework. So again, what I want you to do is first look at the part 1, 2, and 3, do some research, and then after that, more importantly, look at the criteria, look at the different meanings, and again, I want you to think of any types of questions for you to ask your teacher, because I'm 100% sure that they will be giving you a fully detailed answer or explanation of what we just discussed today. All right? So again, ladies and gents, this is your first day. We still have many classes to come by, and I will see you then. Take the challenge.